We haven't seen nothing yet. We are still just at the tip of this revolution. The entire liberal democratic system is built on philosophical ideas we've inherited from the 18th century, especially the idea of free will, which underlies the basic mottos of the liberal worldview, like the voter knows best, the customer is always right, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, follow your heart, do what feels good. All these liberal mottos, which are the foundation of our political and economic system, they assume that the ultimate authority is the free choices of individuals. This was okay for the last 2 or 3 centuries, because even though free will was always a myth and not a scientific reality, I mean, science knows of only 2 kinds of processes in nature. It knows about deterministic processes and it knows about random processes. And their combination results in probabilistic processes. But randomness and probability, they are not freedom. They mean that I can't predict your actions. Now, up till now in history, the humans were so complicated that from a practical perspective, it still made sense to believe in free will. Because nobody could understand you better than you understand yourself. You had this inner realm of desires and thoughts and feelings which you had privileged access. The privileged access now belongs to corporations like Google. They can have access to things happening ultimately inside my body and brain which I don't know about. There is somebody out there, not just one, all kinds of corporations and governments, that maybe not today, maybe in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, they will have privileged access to what's happening inside me, more privileged than my access. They could understand what is happening in my brain better than I understand it. You don't have to give them permission. I mean, in some countries, maybe you have no choice at all. But even in a democracy like the United States, a lot of the information that enables an external entity to hack you, nobody asks you whether you want to give it away or not. Now, at present, most of the data that is being collected on humans is still from the skin outwards. We haven't seen nothing yet. We are still just at the tip of this revolution, because at present, whether it's Google and Facebook and Amazon, or whether it's the government or whatever, they are trying to understand people mainly on the basis of what I search, what I buy, where I go, who I meet. It's all external. The really big revolution, which is coming very quickly, will be when the AI revolution and machine learning and all that, the infotech revolution, meets and merges with the biotech revolution and goes under the skin.
The microchip actually in his hand. The tiny implant is the latest advance in a biohacking technology
that serves as his keys, his ID, and his wallet.
When biometric sensors or even external devices, now we are developing the ability, for example, to know the blood pressure of individuals just by looking at them. You don't need to put a sensor on a person. Just by looking at the face, you can tell what is the blood pressure of that individual. And by analyzing tiny movements in the eyes, in the mouth, you can tell all kinds of things from the current mood of the person. Are you angry? Are you bored? To things like sexual orientation.
Biometric systems can recognize a person's specific physical attributes, their fingerprints, facial features, iris, or retina. The technology is already used around the world.
So we are talking about a world in which humans are no longer a black box. Nobody really understands what happens inside, so we say, okay, free will. No, the box is open, and it's open to others, certain others, more than it is open to you. You don't understand what's happening in your brain, but some corporation or government or organization could understand that.
It used to be that the only way to be subjected to continuous observation and modification was to either be in an experiment. You could be in the basement of a psychology building and have students tweaking you for their projects, or you could join a cult. I mean, this has been done before, and often the people who are in these situations do not realize it's happening to them. In fact, the whole point is that it's sneaky. It's a mechanical approach to manipulating people.
Consumer internet businesses are about exploiting psychology. We want to psychologically figure out how to manipulate you as fast as possible and then give you back that dopamine hit. We did that brilliantly at Facebook. Instagram has done it. WhatsApp has done it. Snapchat has done it. Twitter has done it. So there are great examples. WeChat is doing it.
You're being subtly manipulated by algorithms that are watching everything you do constantly and then sending you changes in your media feed and your diet that are calculated to adjust you slightly to the liking of some unseen advertiser.
You don't realize it, but you are being programmed.
Do you know when iPhone real recently, they started putting that thing on your phone where you see how much screen time you had?
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
You look at it, you're like, what, 5 hours?
9 hours, 46 minutes.
That's 5 hours of nothing.
The founders of the great Silicon Valley spying empires like Facebook have publicly declared that they intentionally included addictive schemes in their designs. It's a statistical addiction. What it says is we will get the broad population to use the services a lot. We'll get them hooked through a scheme of rewards and punishment. And then within that, we'll very gradually start to leverage that to change them. So it's this very kind of stealthy manipulation of the population. So it's not as dramatic as a heroin addict or a gambling addict, but it is the same principle.
It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. That is truly where we are. And I would encourage all of you as the future leaders of the world to really internalize how important this is. If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in.
When you watch the television isn't watching you. When you see the billboard isn't seeing you. And vast numbers of people see the same thing on television and see the same billboard. When you use these new designs, social media, search, YouTube, when you see these things, you're being observed constantly, and algorithms are taking that information and changing what you see next. And they're searching and searching and searching, and they're just blind robots. There's no evil genius here until they find those patterns, those little tricks that get you and make you change your behavior.
It is eroding the core foundations of how people behave by and between each other.
In traditional behaviorism, you would give an animal or a person a little treat like candy or maybe an electric shock, and you'd go back and forth between positive and negative feedback. And when researchers try to determine whether positivity or negativity is more powerful, they're roughly at parity. They're both important. But the difference with social media is that the algorithms that are following you respond very quickly. They're looking for the quick responses. And the negative responses, like getting startled or scared or irritated or angry, tend to rise faster than the positive responses, like building trust or feeling good. Those things rise more slowly. So the algorithms naturally catch the negativity and amplify it and introduce negative people to each other in all of this. And so what this does is it means that the algorithms discovered there's more engagement possible, say by promoting ISIS and promoting the Arab Spring, and so ISIS gets more mileage, or promoting then Black Lives Matter. Now, in the big picture, it's not true that negativity is more powerful, but if you're doing this very rapid measurement of human impulses instead of accumulated human behavior, then it's the negativity that gets amplified. So you tend to have elections that are more driven by rancor and abuse, and you tend to have outcomes that are kind of crazy.
I think we all knew in the back of our minds, even though we feigned this whole line of like, there probably aren't any really bad unintended consequences. I think in the back, deep recesses of our minds, we kind of knew something bad could happen. But I think the way we defined it was not like this.
The people who run the tech companies like Google and Facebook are not doing the manipulating, they're doing the addicting. But the manipulating, which rides on the back of the addicting, is the paying customer of such a company. So, many of those customers are not at all bad influences. They might simply be trying to promote their cars or their perfumes or whatever. And just to be clear, I'm very much a part of this. I've sold a company to Google. I'm not in any sense an outsider. I believe that what we're doing is not in our own self-interest. Business interests are a part of society. If they destroy society, they destroy themselves. So I don't think we're being evil so much as we're being stupid.
It is a point in time where people need to hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem. And I don't have a good solution. My solution is I just don't use these tools anymore. I haven't for years. It's created huge tension with my friends, huge tensions in my social circles. If you look at my Facebook feed, I've posted maybe 2 times in 7 years. 3 times, 5 times. It's less than 10. And it's weird. I guess I kind of just innately didn't want to get programmed. And so I just tuned it out. But I didn't confront it. And now to see what's happening, it really bums me out.
We've created this bizarre society that's unprecedented where if any 2 people wish to communicate over the internet, the only way that can happen, the only way it's financed is through a third party who believes that those 2 can be manipulated in a sneaky way. It's an insane way to structure civilization. So we can keep all the good stuff, and there is good stuff on social media, of course. We can keep all that and just throw away the manipulation business model and substitute in a different business model. And there are many alternatives that would be better. They just have to be honest. It could be a paid service like a Netflix where you're paying for it, you're the genuine customer, it has to keep your interest. It could be like a public library. It could become a public thing that isn't commercial at all. That's an option. But what we did in Silicon Valley is we wanted it both ways. We wanted everything open and free, but we wanted hero entrepreneurs and hackers. And so the only way to get that was this advertising thing that gradually turned into the manipulation engine as the computers got faster. And this weird business plan, once you can see that there are alternatives, you realize how strange it is and how unsustainable it is. This is the thing we must get rid of. We don't have to get rid of the smartphone. We don't have to get rid of the idea of social media. We just have to get rid of the manipulation machine that's in the background.